Welcome to the Diva Deets, the ultimate podcast for women over 40 who are ready to take control of their health, ditch the diets, and lose weight for good. And today we're going to talk about faith. Weight loss is not just a physical journey. It's really not. It's an emotional one, it's a spiritual one. There are a lot of changes that happen during a weight loss journey. There are days when the scale won't move and you feel like nothing's working. And it honestly just takes faith to keep showing up. So I wanted to do an episode on faith because I want you to know what faith looks like in this process and how to lean on it when the journey just feels heavier than your dumbbells, heavier than your deadlifts. Because let's be real, the workouts and the meals are one thing, but the belief that it's going to actually work, that is a whole nother thing, and that is what carries you when the results feel invisible. I'm going to tell you about Michelle. We talk about Michelle a lot in here, but what maybe the part of the story that you don't know is Michelle started with me when I was doing in-person 6-week challenges, and she did great in her first little bit of challenges with me. She was so consistent, and she probably lost 10, 11 pounds. She really did feel good. Felt good, and then she hit a season where progress slowed down. She had a lot of stress in her life. She had stuff going on, and she wasn't fully committed because when I tried to measure her, she literally just ghosted me. And I'm not talking for a short period of time. I think it was like 18 months. I didn't see her at all. And I ran into her in a parking lot and just hugged her so tight because I was so excited to see her. But she was just basically kind of saying, like, I don't see any results, Danya. So I'm working hard, but it doesn't feel like it's working. And she'd lost faith. She was like, I've lost faith, really, is what she was saying to me by ghosting me. And we've all been there. So I wanted to talk about it today because anytime you're staring at the number on the scale, fighting the same cravings, starting over every Monday, that's where faith comes in. That's where it comes in because it's not the kind of faith that ignores reality, but it's the kind of faith that holds on to the bigger picture. It's what we call a why. But sometimes I think understanding it as faith is a little bit more of a picture for you to grasp onto because faith is an action word. You cannot have faith without action. And so that's where it's attached to your why. That is why you have to look at it from a perspective of, do I have faith that this is going to work or not? It's simply the belief in what you can't see yet. That's really what faith is. It's coming. You know it's coming. And it's kind of like planting a seed. You put it in the ground, you water it every day. For weeks, nothing. If you've ever grown a garden, you know this. For weeks, nothing. And then you check the dirt, it looks like a waste of time. Underground, the roots are growing. Something is really, really happening, but you just can't see it yet. You can't see it yet. The weight loss, the workouts, the meal tracking, the water goals, some days it feels like nothing because you just can't see it yet. But under the surface, your metabolism is shifting, especially if you're putting on muscle. Your hormones are balancing, especially if you're putting on muscle. Your muscles are repairing, especially if you're eating good nutrition. And faith is trusting, even when proof is not visible yet. So if you don't have proof, you're just trusting that it is there. You've seen it before. Um, you've you've seen it before in other things that have happened in your life. It's like you've got to picture it in your head before it ever happens. You've got to like write it down. Maybe it is something that there's a dress that you want to fit back into or you want to fit into period for an event. One of my clients, Stacy, her daughter was getting married. That was one of her big whys. And so when I measured her today, the wedding's over. It's like, what is your why now? You need to have one. Why? Because that's where faith is. And that was what we talked about was like, what is your next goal? And let's put your mind there. Because if you don't have somewhere to progress, you will stagnate. And faith is a really important part of the journey because we always have to have something to hope for. It is truly the piece of our lives that creates hope, if that makes sense. So writing down what you want is really important. You guys know this if you've listened to me a while, but I keep a picture of what I don't want on my phone at all times. And that is, I passed out after a family outing in the basement by myself. And I have a photo of that day and how red and how puffy and how swollen and just honestly how fat I had gotten, to remind myself that I don't want to be there. But that photo gives me the faith that I can do it because I've never, ever want to be there again. And I haven't been since that happened. And that's been almost a decade ago that happened. But maybe it's having energy to play with your kids. Maybe it's having energy to play with your grandkids. So many times that's what parents and grandparents want. Like, I just want to be able to get down on the floor and have lots of energy, not just get down there and stare at them and think, gosh, I'm so tired of this and I want to get up and leave, you know, or how am I going to get out of the floor? And that part's really important to people. So, what is your why? And that piece of faith, that's the vision that you keep in front of you every day, because faith means believing in the outcome before the evidence actually shows up. You have to believe that you are going to fit in that dress. You have to believe that you are going to feel better than you did in that picture. You have to believe that you're going to be able to get up and down out of the floor with your grandkids. Maybe not effortlessly, but you're not going to be terrified anymore of getting up and down out of the floor. Faith is not about giant leaps. I think that's a misconception. Sometimes it feels like giant leaps, but usually it's just a decision. It's about keeping tiny promises to yourself when motivation runs out, because motivation is a fickle bitch and it's not going to stay there ever. And so you're always going to have to lean into what does stay. And those visions of what we want will stay. So those micro promises of faith are getting your workout in today, hitting your food today, getting your water in today. Those four pillars that the divas live by, those are our acts of faith. They really are. Faith is saying, I don't see results yet, but I believe these little choices matter. And they matter big time, because little choices add up to big results. Over time, you end up with a mindset that you can trust. And that is where the success in this journey lies. So when your head tells you it's not worth it, you need anchors. I don't know what they are for you, but maybe you need to gratitude journal. You could either gratitude right before you go to bed or right before you get up, 3 things that you're super thankful for. Not everybody wakes up. Some people go to sleep and they don't wake up. This year, I think I've been to 7 or 8 funerals in 2025 of people that didn't get the privilege of waking up. So gratitude journaling, I think, is really a big part of what you could be thankful for, that you woke up. That could be part of your day, right? So just thinking about what you're thankful for, your husband, your family. I'm thankful that I got my workout in today. I'm thankful that I got, a dog so that I have to go walk it. Whatever it is that you're thankful for. For me, prayer is a big part of my life, a big part of my life. I think I pray pretty constantly in my world. And my husband, sometimes when I call him at work, we had a huge storm yesterday here in Tennessee, and there was tornadoes touching down all around this town. And I was literally driving in it. I was supposed to be driving to a client's house. He is almost 80, and he's one of the few in-person clients that I have. And I literally prayed the whole time I was on the phone with him. And he was like, I can't understand what you're saying, but so hopefully you can hear me or whatever. But of course, you don't close your eyes while you're driving and praying. But I was praying out loud because it's just part of who I am. It's just kind of ingrained in who I am, whatever it is that you do. Because there's no requirement of me for you to be a Christian in order to be in my world. But at the same time, is there like a meditation that you can do? Is there affirmations that you can do? Because I also do meditation and affirmations. They are very strategic in my world for keeping my stress level down, and also keeping that faith in front of me, the affirmations of who I'm becoming. I'm confident, I'm competent, I'm strong. Those things that I say over myself, because for a while I didn't believe any of that about myself. I would have told you that I was the biggest loser on the face of the earth. It's taken a lot of me telling me who I want to be for me to become who I am and continue to grow and become a better person. When your head tells you it's not worth it, you need anchors. You really need anchors. And so just make sure you have those things to turn to. It's really important. The anchors remind you it's not about being in a smaller body, it's about being in a stronger spirit. The anchors remind you it's not about, trying to be the strongest, it's about feeling the best. The anchors remind you that it's about becoming this person that you're becoming, and you want to stay on that journey. When you are anchored, you're not going to drift when the waves hit. You're just not going to. You'll be able to stay put. Yes, endure the waves, but you stay put and you stay focused and you stay consistent. Here's the truth, because the women who keep faith are the ones who get results. The ones that turn in check-ins every week, those are the ones that have faith. They really are. Or turning it in every other week. They have faith in the journey because they know that it's going to happen. And I can see that. I can see that by their acts of faith. Like, it does feel a little bit like Groundhog Day if you haven't had results, right? But if you keep turning in your check-in, you know it's coming. It helps anchor you to the results that are coming eventually, because you can't control the results. You can only control what you do. I was taught a long time ago that you control 2 things in your life, period. One of them is your actions, and one of them is your attitude. To me, those are faith and prayer. your action being that you are going to do the things that you can absolutely control, and your prayer being your attitude. It's just keeping yourself humble, keeping yourself focused, keeping yourself positive, knowing that it's coming. One of my favorite books, which I don't have this in my notes, is by Andy Andrews. And oh my gosh, The Traveler's Gift. I was like, it was right there, and then it left. And Brian was like, I don't know which book it is. If you have not read The Traveler's Gift, I highly recommend it. That is a really fun read about a guy who ends up traveling back in time after a really catastrophic event happens in his life. I don't know if he just travels mentally, I can't remember right off the bat, but he is going back in time to all of these brutal decisions that were being made in history, like Solomon and the baby, like Truman before the bomb. And he has to get something from those people to help him realize what his faith journey is. Because each one of those decisions by all of those people that are in that book, one of them is Anne Frank, every decision made was based on faith because they believed that results were coming. My favorite one was Christopher Columbus because he was known as a very optimistic dude. He had a lot of bad things happen and he did a lot of bad things. I realized there was just a lot of bad things happening, but he was eternally optimistic about discovering land. He really was. And he'd be like, well, it didn't happen today, but it's going to happen tomorrow. And he had men dying left and right. And so he was one of my favorite characters in the book because it just helps you to know that there is something on the horizon coming. Your weight loss journey is no different. Faith doesn't burn calories, but it keeps you in the game, if that makes sense, if that's a good correlation for you to get to. So keep the faith. Faith stops you from quitting on week 3. Week 3 is the toxic week. It's the one where you're tired, but you haven't lost 73 pounds. You know what I mean? And so you might have lost a pound or something like that. And so you just women naturally quit at week 3. Week 3 I message people. I'm trying to stay in touch with them as much as possible. I try not to make sure that they're not getting out of connection because that is the week that faith drops the most. And faith reminds us that plateaus are normal. I just did an episode about plateaus that hopefully you heard before you heard this one, but plateaus are totally normal. Faith is part of that journey. You know that the changes are coming. Faith keeps you choosing your future self over your feelings in the moment. So if you are wanting to eat your feelings, redirect your anchor back to your faith. Like, what is your why? Why are you even doing this? And you know the results are coming. So we don't want to take ourselves super off course for that. Faith frees you from a timeline trap as well. And I think that's the biggest thing that I appreciate about faith personally is that I know there's not a timeline attached to this recovery from the hysterectomy, just like there wasn't a timeline for losing my menopausal weight. But one of the things that I did to remind myself how far I've come is I put up a video, if you follow me on Instagram at Danya Powers EC, where I was, you know, before my menopausal, probably at the peak of my menopausal weight gain, and where I'm at now recording a podcast side by side. And even with this weight gain, how much further I am ahead than I was at that point that I was so sick and felt so bad. And that for me is a faith anchor to look back and look and see how far I've come. So always take pictures, always take video, take stuff that you know you can look back and remind yourself how far you've come. That's the timeline trap that you don't want to get stuck in. Like, it should be here by now. It should be here. One of the clients that I was talking to this week in her check-in, when we were talking about plateau, we were talking about, you know, what happens after a knee surgery. She's a nurse, and so the knee swells, right? And so when the patient asks you, how long is this going to swell? What is your response? You have no answer to that. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. The body does what it does. And so there's not a timeline attached to that. So don't put yourself in the trap of it should have happened by now if it was going to happen. That's not true. It's going to happen when it happens because your body is designed to work a specific way, and it's going to work because you're doing all of the right things. When I say all of the right things, you are getting strength training 3 to 4 times a week. You are eating plenty of protein, 25 to 30 grams of protein at each meal. You are making sure that you are getting your steps in, and you are getting, did I say water, Brian? You're getting your water in. That's our 4th one, right? So as long as you're doing those 4 things, those are your controllables. So stop saying if it doesn't happen by this date, I failed. Stop doing that to yourself because it will happen. So say that it will happen because I'm showing up, and make sure that you Say that every single time you find yourself being pulled in the wrong direction. You know, one thing I will say about Stacy, who was getting ready for her daughter's wedding, she came and joined my program um, 18 months before her daughter's wedding. So we had a really decent amount of time to get her ready for her daughter's wedding. She really didn't have that far to go, but we were definitely healing her body first. If you are trying to do fast weight loss, I'm not the coach for you. I will tell you 1,000 times to not listen to me because I don't do that. I don't do fast, I do fixed. When you leave my program, it's because you are feeling fixed and you're feeling like you can move forward on your own. You're not leaving my program um, because you didn't lose weight. If you want fast, it's not me. So just get good at saying it will happen because I'm still showing up. Get really good at saying that because the power of faith in a weight loss journey keeps you consistent along for the science of it to do its job. So don't ever forget that as you're in this. And my encouragement today is that if you're in a season where you can't see progress, borrow some faith, borrow mine. Because if you're doing all the right things, sister, diva, it is going to happen. It will happen for you. And when I say all the right things, you're not doing this massive calorie restriction. You are eating according to your metabolism. You need a certain amount of food to eat to support that. So you want to go to tdeecalculator.net, find what your put your weight in and find what your activity level is. If you're getting around 6,000 steps a day, you're at least moderately active. Okay. And then you want to deficit maybe 100 calories from that, maybe 200 at the most. And that's it. That's where you have to start. So you're getting all of those things in. Borrow my faith because I know it works. It's science, right? Your work is not wasted. Every rep, every meal, every choice, growth is happening. It really is, I promise. You are the seed. Just like that seed, your breakthrough is going to come if you keep showing up. Eventually, it's going to come up and be this beautiful journey. All right? Faith is the fuel when everything feels invisible. So don't forget that. Trust the process, trust yourself, and trust that you're becoming the woman that you want to be. If you're ready to step in faith with me, message me the word faith on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Danya Powers EC. My TikTok handle is at Danya Powers EC, and my Facebook is at Danya Powers. I'd love to connect with you and show you what it is like to have a coach walk with you in this season so that you do have somebody that you're directly borrowing faith from. And I know this is going to be worth the journey. I know this is going to be worth your freedom. And until next time, stay strong, stay consistent, and stay fabulous, my divas. Thanks for tuning into this latest episode of the Diva Deets. If this helped you and you found it valuable, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Ready for more support? Join my free Facebook community or join my coaching community. The details are in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, stay strong, stay consistent, and stay fabulous, my divas.